My 30 female parents had me at a young age. My whole childhood was awful. They never put me up for adoption or anything like that because my grandparents would help. And every time CPS was triggered, they suddenly became the best parents in the world and blackmailed me into lying. But the reality is, I lived alone most of the week. And as a little child, I already knew how to make myself a meal and be by myself while my parents were busy partying, traveling, drinking, or fighting. When I was 15, they fell in love again and had kids like rabbits, my 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I left home when I was 18 years old. It hurt in the bottom of my soul to have to leave my siblings, but I couldn't stand it. At 24, I passed a public contest that paid me very well. I worked my butt off to study and work. Then at 25, the CPS contacted me, saying that they had taken away my parents' custody of all their children and asked if I was able to take care of at least one. They were looking for relatives. Of course, I said I would take care of everyone. I know it's not my responsibility, but a part of me always wanted them to get out of that. And now I have a good job. My house isn't very big, but my husband and I, he also wanted to. We're able to accommodate everyone, and we're not so tight financially. They're good students, polite and affectionate. I don't regret having welcomed each one, and my husband treats everyone as if he was a big brother or a father to my younger sibs. My parents tried to get them back, as my grandparents cut off the help after they lost custody, but they couldn't, and custody became permanent for me. We haven't had contact with them for 2 years. My father's sister called me recently, saying she was shocked to see my homeless parents asking for money on the street. Aunt was looking to see if someone could house them, and they decided to come to my house and asked me if I could put them up or help financially since I had a good job. I replied, "Nah, I'll pass. I'd rather give this money to the children I raise." My father's whole family started to blow up my phone with messages saying that I was turning my back on the 2 most important people who slept on the streets, how cold-hearted I was to do this, and how I didn't even want to help when I could. I blocked everyone. My husband said that he was on my side, but that I should give a symbolic amount to help them out. Am I the idiot for refusing to help my homeless parents? Absolutely not the idiot. You and your husband are saints, and I applaud you for being such an amazing big sister, but don't give a single dollar. If you do, they'll see it as a sign that they can guilt trip you, and they'll never stop. You owe your parents nothing. Ask the family members if they're going to start paying for child support, since you're raising your siblings because your parents are unfit. Ask them where they were when you were a child being neglected. Your parents are adults and responsible for their own lives. They were supposed to take care of you and your siblings, not the other way around. Also, the fact that your aunt had to see them on the street, was she not present enough to even realize that they'd lost their home and housed them? Temporarily, at least? It seems like aunt and family are being a little self-righteous and thinking that they're super helpful while you're a bad child. Every person hassling you to take your parents in should be met with the same reply. "I'm too busy raising their children. How about you take them in?" I just can't. These are 2 45-year-olds, seemingly able-bodied people who should be working and paying child support to the state for the upkeep of their children. They owe you money. If you gave them money, they'd owe you twice as much. I don't care what their excuses are for not working. When you create children, your excuses no longer matter to anyone because those kids didn't ask to be born, and they have needs that cost money. Absolutely block them all and don't look back. My female parents divorced 6 years ago, and my mom has been dating her new boyfriend for a year and a half. Despite that, I only met him 6 months ago, and I've seen him a handful of times, maybe 2 to 3. He seems like a good guy, and I've got nothing against him. Now, I spend half the month with my mom and the rest with my dad. I usually come home around 1 to 2 p.m., and my mom gets out of work at around 4 to 5, sometimes 6 to 7 if she's having a date with him. I'm alone at home, which is okay. I don't mind. I actually enjoy it very much. My dad also lives 10 minutes away from here, so I know I can always call him. Yesterday, my mom said she'll be back around 7 or 8 because she had a small dinner with her boyfriend's parents. I said okay. She was supposed to change before at her boyfriend's house, but forgot her dress. So I called her when I got home and saw it lying on the bed. She thanked me and said she'd make a quick trip to get it, but an hour after that she called me again and said that her boyfriend was on her way, and almost as soon as she did it, her boyfriend rang the bell. I opened the door a bit to confirm it was him, and I said hi and to wait there. He tried to open the door and said, "No, let me get the dress." And I forced back and said there's no need for him to come in, since I could bring the dress to him. He said no again, and I pretended to let him in so I could close the door quickly. I won't lie, I didn't want him there with me, because I don't know the guy at all. And as I said, I could easily bring the dress to him, which is what I did. He took it very angrily and called me a rude brat before leaving. My mom came back that night with him, and they both scolded me for my behavior, despite me telling my mom that I didn't know him, and he was the rude one. I ended up calling my dad, and he picked me up. When my mom's boyfriend saw him, he instantly backed off, and my dad said he'll talk to her later. She texted me, calling me an idiot for making this bigger than it is. Not the idiot. No, the boyfriend made it bigger than it is, not you. Then he went whining to your mother and got her in on it too. He was supposed to pick up the dress. He didn't need to come in unless he had some other motive. I mean, the motive could have been something as harmless as getting a set of shoes or jewelry on top of the dress, but that could have been solved via communication because OP would have been able to give it to him with the dress. So yes, he made a mountain out of a molehill. Your mom is an idiot, especially for doubling down, plus gaslighting you after the fact. Not sure if it's possible or feasible, but I would highly suggest talking to your dad about changing the living situation until this guy's out of the picture. The fact that a grown man with whom you've only interacted 2 to 3 times previously thinks he has a right to scold you in front of your mother is scary. Not only that, she allowed him to do it and took his side. That's even more terrifying. People rarely show their worst behavior the first time they explode, which means he's likely capable of more aggressive reactions down the road, and she basically signaled her willingness to allow it. She may not realize it now, but she's choosing to put her relationship with him above the one she has with you. Your gut is right. You should make this a bigger deal than you already have. I, 25 female, and my husband Ryan, 26 male, have been together for 5 years, married for 1. I get along really well with his parents and his brother, not his sister, Emily, 25. Emily constantly makes remarks about my body and clothes. Comments such as, "Looks like you didn't eat today. Stop buying clothes that are too big, it's trashy. Wow, she's finally eating," and so on. Ryan has spoken to her privately numerous times and called her out, but she just ignores him and says that I'm oversensitive, and she's not doing anything but joking. She's backed off a little. My whole life I've been thinner, wearing small-size clothing. I've also had trouble gaining weight, but I've begun getting into my target weight range, with Ryan helping me work out and lift more. 2 weeks ago, everyone was over at our house for a pool day and dinner. Ryan and his dad were grilling hamburgers and barbecue. I went up to grab a plate and filled it with a lot of food. When I sat down to eat, Emily said, "Wow, finally about time you start eating like a real person." I ignored her and just went on about eating. She didn't like that I wasn't giving her a reaction, so she called Ryan and said, "Hey Ryan, your wife is finally eating, so now you don't have to sleep with bones," and laughed. Everyone was silent for a moment, but Ryan snapped. He told her to get out of our house and not come back. Of course she protested, but he let her know that he was tired of her treating me horribly, and we gave her too many chances to change, and now she's lost the privilege to be near us. She then demanded their parents do something. Her parents walked up to her with her stuff in her bag and said that they walk her to her car. Once back, they apologized profusely for her behavior and said Ryan did the right thing. For the last 2 weeks, no one has been in contact with Emily unless they were telling her to apologize. She refuses, saying she did nothing wrong and was just joking with her brother. Her friends and even some other family members are saying, "I'm just oversensitive and a horrible woman for taking her parents and brothers away from her." Before we blocked her, she told me I should have just laughed at her joke, and stopped Ryan from snapping at her, and that she now has no one to cry to because I took her family away. And I'm starting to feel a bit bad because they were always close. So, am I the idiot for not stopping my husband from snapping at his sister? Not the idiot. She made a choice to be a jerk. She made a choice not to apologize. She made a choice to not listen to the times your husband spoke with her. So then she's choosing to lose contact with her family. It sounds like your husband and in-laws understand that she's a bully, and that's awesome that they do. I guess this isn't the first time they've had to deal with her toxicity. A spectacular example of mess around and find out. A shame it took so long for someone to shut her down. OP, you didn't take any of her family away from her. She did it all by herself, by being extremely judgmental, and overall, a very, very mean person. Jokes are supposed to be funny to the person they involve. She's been bullying you about your looks for years. Good for your husband for having your back, and good for his parents too. You have no responsibility to protect a bully from the consequences. It sounds like Emily is jealous of you being slim. Many people are naturally thin. As long as you're healthy, you're great the way you are. I, female 30, got engaged to my fiance a month ago. My in-laws, especially mother-in-law, are the type of people that ask a lot of questions, personal questions at that. Their questions tend to be hurtful sometimes, but I tried not to get easily offended and take it personally. But those questions are getting out of control. So instead of lashing out and being rude, I've decided to answer these questions by turning it back on my in-laws and asking them the same questions they ask me. For example, whenever my fiance and I are visiting, my sister-in-law would ask, "Hey, when you going to lose those pounds?" I go, "When are you going to lose those pounds? You put on a lot of weight recently," while pointing at her, eyes wide open. She'd then get easily offended. Father-in-law would ask, "When are you going to get your own house?" I go, "When are you going to get your own house? Aren't you 73 and still paying rent for your house?" They live in a rental house. Then he gets highly offended. Brother-in-law would ask, "When are you going to get married?" So I go, "When are you going to get married? You don't even have a girlfriend yet." They've obviously picked up on my vibe, but the blow-up occurred last night when my fiance and I were at their house for dinner. Mother-in-law looked at me while I was eating and went on about kids and grandchildren. She then asked, "When will you start giving us babies?" My fiance looked at me in an "oh boy" type of way. I felt no hesitation. I looked at her and said, "When are you going to start giving us babies? That's what I want to know." The table went quiet though. Some members laughed. Mother-in-law and her daughter and husband made all types of angry faces. Then dinner was over. I got scolded by my fiance on the way home, telling me I was being rude with how I talked back and responded to his family's innocent questions. Yeah, questions they've already asked a million times before. Hard eye roll, but whatever. We got into an argument, and then he looked at me and said, "Why are you being hostile?" I said, "Why are you being hostile?" Getting in my face and yelling. He yelled at me again, saying I'm driving him crazy, and called me childish and immature, then stormed off to the bathroom. Am I the idiot, really? Not the idiot. This is hilarious. Your in-laws are being rude, and at this point, should be able to predict how you answer these questions. Does your fiance really not think they're being invasive? Maybe talk about this before you get married, and let him answer all future questions his family chooses to throw at you. Just keep eating or doing whatever you were doing when asked, and leave him in the hot seat. Tell it to your mother-in-law. "Oh, we'll only have kids once fiance grows some balls." I get that you were frustrated and just wanted to prove a point that they didn't get. My issue is with the fiance. He knows these questions are invasive and upset you. Why is he letting his family off the hook by saying that they're innocent questions? Why do their feelings matter more than yours? This is a glimpse into your future. The time to address it is now. Are you sure you're excited to become a part of this family? They kind of treat you like crap, and your fiance doesn't have your back. Is this really how you want to live the rest of your life? Can you imagine how awful they'll be if you decide to have children? I can hear sister-in-law now. When are you going to lose the baby weight? Not the idiot, and you should seriously reconsider this engagement. At the beginning of this year, I, male 33, Started a new job thanks to my friend. My new boss was a woman around the same age that I am. And gosh, she was hot. But it turned out she wasn't nice. Anyway, we're in Europe, and it's normal for coworkers to go out for a drink occasionally. I was invited to an outing shortly after starting work. She, Daniela, my boss, was also there. I remember another woman asking Daniela what she was watching now and asking for a recommendation. It turned out that she was watching telenovelas. I didn't say anything at the time, but when I was smoking outside with some workmates, I commented that I didn't believe that she, Daniela, had a PhD, and if she did, she probably got it because she slept with someone. After all, no one with a PhD would watch telenovelas. Some guys agreed, and others kept quiet, and the conversation turned to other topics. On Monday, I was told to prepare for a meeting with HR. Turns out one of the guys snitched on me, or Daniela heard about it and she wasn't happy. I got a warning. In private, when no one was around, so I couldn't prove it and get her in trouble, she told me that she could have gotten me fired, as I'm on probation, but it's much more satisfying to have such a small-minded person forced to work under an educated woman, and she told me to enjoy my time. I still work there, but I don't see Daniela as she got promoted not long after, and she's even higher up than she was before. I don't think my comment was wrong. I mean, it's a brainless activity, and no one really smart watches it. But I told my girlfriend about this last night, and she told me that I was the idiot for making that comment, and I'm torn. I didn't think so before, but my girlfriend got me thinking. So, am I the idiot? Oh, honey, you might be the biggest idiot on here. If there were an award for stupidity, you would win no match. I'm not going to list all the flaws in your logic here, but you're an idiot and a moron, plain and simple. Wow, so the meeting in HR where you were reprimanded and almost fired was not enough, and your girlfriend chiming in only kind of made you consider you could be wrong? Lots of incredibly intelligent people need to turn their brains off sometimes in order to get a rest. You had no reason except prejudice to assume her degree wasn't real. What's more, you then spread malicious gossip instead of keeping your bias to yourself. I feel sorry for anyone who has to work with you. This has to be a joke, right? You are the idiot. Here, it's obvious that you're expressing jealousy that she won't sleep with you and that she's smarter than you. Women can do whatever the heck they want, PhD or not. It is so demeaning and misogynistic of you to not only think this, but to think it's appropriate to declare it out loud, especially in a work setting, and think there wouldn't be repercussions for it. It's much more satisfying to have such a small-minded person forced to work under an educated woman, and she told me to enjoy my time. What a boss move. She should write a book on dealing effectively with bigots. She clearly has a lot of experience with folks like you. Nice job, OP. You played yourself.